Imagine a place where the beauty is so intense it seems almost unreal, a garden of peace and perfection, where every tree is a testament to God's love and care. This was the Garden of Eden, a paradise where Adam and Eve lived in harmony, without fear or guilt. But even in this pristine setting, sorrow and pain found their way. Disobedience brought the fall, and with it, a new reality of struggle, pain, and separation. The scars of Adam and Eve's wrong choice are the same ones we face in our daily lives, the hard work, the inescapable pain, and the sense of loss. Yet the story does not end in darkness. In the midst of the fall, a bright promise of redemption and hope emerges. God made a promise that the seed of the woman would triumph over the serpent, offering a light of hope in a world now marked by pain. In this narrative, you will find a deep connection to your own struggles and the eternal solution that God offers. The story of Adam and Eve is not just an ancient tale, but a window into hope that continues to illuminate our lives today. Come and discover how, even in the darkness, the promise of redemption shines brightly, offering us all the chance for a new beginning. But before you start watching the video, just make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, because here I'm going to bring you a series of videos like this one, which will tell the story of all the biblical characters. The creation of Adam. Once upon a time, when the world was newly formed and empty, God, the creator of all things, decided to do something special. He looked at the earth and planned to create a being in his own image and likeness, someone who could care for the world he had created. So God came down to the earth and, with his own hands, molded a figure from the dust of the ground. With great care, he formed every detail of the human body. But the figure was still lifeless. Then God breathed into the man's nostrils the breath of life. It was as if a gentle yet powerful breeze entered the clay body, infusing it with life. The man opened his eyes and took a deep breath. He was now alive, with thoughts and feelings. God named this first man Adam. For Adam, God prepared a special place, the Garden of Eden. Imagine a garden filled with fruit trees, colorful flowers, crystal-clear rivers, and many animals living in harmony. Adam had a mission, to take care of the garden and the animals. He walked among the trees, picked fruit, named the animals, and enjoyed the peace and beauty around him. Everything was in perfect harmony. But God knew that Adam needed company. He had a plan for that, which is part of another story. For now, imagine Adam in the Garden of Eden, marveling at his creation, feeling the sun and the gentle wind. He was at the beginning of a great journey, one that would change the course of humanity forever. The Garden of Eden. After creating Adam, God prepared a special place for him to live, the Garden of Eden. Imagine an earthly paradise, full of fruit trees of all kinds, colorful flowers, and rivers of crystal-clear water. Eden was a place of indescribable beauty. The trees were tall and leafy, laden with delicious fruits. There were flowers of all colors, spreading a sweet scent through the air. Rivers meandered through the garden, their waters sparkling in the sunlight. The garden was full of animals of all kinds, living in harmony. Adam named each of them and took care of the garden. He walked along the paths lined with flowers, feeling the gentle breeze and the peace that reigned there. The Garden of Eden was a place of peace, abundance, and beauty, where Adam lived in harmony with nature and in direct communion with God. God walked through the garden, talking to Adam as a friend, in an environment of pure serenity and perfection. The creation of Eve. While Adam was living in the Garden of Eden, God realized that there was something that was not yet complete. Even though Adam was surrounded by beauty and abundance, God knew that he needed a companion, someone with whom he could share his life and experiences. God decided that Adam needed a helpmate, a companion who was right for him. So God did something special. He caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep. Imagine a sleep so deep that Adam did not feel anything that was about to happen. While Adam was asleep, God performed a miracle. Very carefully, God took one of Adam's ribs and closed it with flesh. Then God used this rib to form a new creature. He molded this creature with the same perfection and care that he had molded Adam, creating a woman. When God was finished, he brought this new creature to Adam. As soon as Adam woke up and saw the woman before him, he immediately recognized that she was a part of himself. Adam was delighted and exclaimed, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, she shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." God named this new creature Eve. Eve meant life, or mother of all living, for she would become the mother of all human beings who would come after. Thus, Adam and Eve were united, not only in body but in spirit and purpose. Eve became the perfect companion for Adam. Together, they would live in the Garden of Eden, sharing its beauty and abundance. God blessed them and ordained that they would become one flesh, living in perfect harmony and love. The creation of Eve was an act of divine love and care, completing God's plan for life in Eden to be full and complete. Adam and Eve were ready to begin a new phase of their lives, together in a wonderful world created especially for them. How do you see Eve's role in the story of Eden? And what did you think of God's act in creating Eve? Leave your comment below and join the conversation. Life in the Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve lived in perfect harmony and happiness. The garden was a stunning place, with fruit trees, colorful flowers, and crystal-clear rivers. They could eat all the fruit, except for one tree, which we will talk about in a moment in this video. The animals lived in peace with Adam and Eve. There were lions, lambs, birds, and many others, all living together without fear. Adam named the animals and observed them with interest. Adam and Eve enjoyed a life without hard work or suffering. They walked around the garden, picked fruit, and bathed in the rivers. God walked around the garden and talked to them, creating an intimate and constant connection. This was life in the Garden of Eden, an existence of beauty, abundance, and deep connection with creation and the Creator. Adam and Eve lived in complete harmony, enjoying every moment in a world created especially for them, where nature was generous and God's presence was constant. God's commandment. In the Garden of Eden, God gave Adam and Eve a commandment essential to life in paradise. Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. The garden was filled with fruit trees, offering an abundance of delicious food. Adam and Eve were free to enjoy all of these fruits, taking advantage of the bounty of God's creation. However, God made one important exception: the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which stood in the center of the garden. Its vibrant, attractive fruit was a test of obedience. God's commandment was clear and direct. Eating from this tree would bring death and cause a separation between Adam, Eve, and God. This rule was intended to protect Adam and Eve, ensuring that they remained in harmony with God's plan and the perfect order of Eden. This commandment not only set a boundary, but also provided an opportunity to demonstrate respect and trust in God. Obeying this rule was crucial to maintaining peace and connection with the Creator in the wonderful environment God had created for them. The serpent's temptation. In the Garden of Eden, one day, the serpent, known for his cunning, approached Eve. She was near the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which God had forbidden. The serpent, in a seductive tone, asked, "Did God really say that you must not eat of any fruit from the trees of the garden?" Eve responded, explaining God's rule: "We may eat fruit from the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, God said we must not eat or touch, or we will die." The serpent then tried to deceive Eve, saying, "You will not surely die. God knows that in the day you eat of it your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." The serpent's promise aroused Eve's curiosity and desire. She looked at the fruit of the forbidden tree, which looked appetizing and attractive. The idea of gaining wisdom and being like God became too tempting. Eve decided to try the fruit, and upon eating it, she felt immediate pleasure. Eve then gave the fruit to Adam, who also ate it. Immediately, both felt a transformation. Their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked, feeling shame and guilt for the first time. The knowledge of good and evil brought a new awareness of their disobedience. The temptation of the serpent, with its lies and deceptive promises, led Adam and Eve to disobey God. This resulted in the loss of innocence and separation from the perfection of Eden, forever changing their lives and bringing the need to face the consequences of their choices. We are now going to get to the key point of the story of Adam and Eve, but first I noticed that you still haven't liked this video. This is very important for YouTube to continue to promote our content to you, and so we can continue to publish new videos. So, like this video now because it's free. Continuing, the divine confrontation. After Adam and Eve disobeyed by eating the forbidden fruit, they both felt ashamed and tried to hide from God among the trees of the Garden of Eden. God, who often walked through the garden in the evening breeze, noticed the absence of Adam and Eve and called to them, "Where are you?" Adam responded in fear and shame, "I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid myself." God questioned, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you that you should not eat?" Adam tried to justify himself, saying, "The woman whom you gave to be with me gave me fruit of the tree, and I ate." He blamed Eve, trying to deflect responsibility. God turned to Eve and asked, "What is this you have done?" Eve replied, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." She also tried to shift the blame, placing the responsibility on the serpent. God then pronounced the consequences. He cursed the serpent to crawl on its belly and eat dust, and said there would be enmity between it and the woman, and between his offspring and hers. For Eve, God increased her labor pains and declared that her desire would be for her husband, who would rule over her. To Adam, God said that the ground would be cursed because of his disobedience. Adam would have to work hard to earn his living, and would eventually return to the dust from which he was formed. The divine confrontation revealed the seriousness of disobedience and the consequences that Adam and Eve would face in the world outside of paradise. The expulsion from the Garden of Eden. After Adam and Eve's disobedience, God decided that they could no longer live in the Garden of Eden. The decision was clear: they were to be expelled from paradise, since the perfect harmony and innocence of the garden had been disrupted. To ensure that Adam and Eve would not return, God took specific measures. He placed cherubim, angelic beings with flaming swords, to the east of the garden. These cherubim were tasked with guarding the way to the tree of life, preventing Adam and Eve from entering the garden and accessing the fruit that offered eternal life. Adam and Eve were then led out of Eden. Upon leaving the garden, they entered a different world, a place where they would have to face hard work and the struggle for survival. The comfort and abundance of Eden gave way to a reality full of challenges and hardships. Even with their expulsion, God demonstrated his concern and care for Adam and Eve. He made garments of skin to cover them, replacing the fig leaves they had used to cover themselves. This action was a sign of his continued mercy and provision, even after their disobedience. The expulsion from the Garden of Eden marked a new phase for Adam and Eve. They left behind the life of innocence and beauty of Eden and entered a new era of work and effort, where they would face the consequences of their choices and seek a path of redemption. How do you interpret God's action in expelling Adam and Eve? And what do you think about the way God showed mercy even after their disobedience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss the meanings and lessons of this crucial part of the story. The birth of children. After being expelled from the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve faced a new world, full of challenges and hard work. Amidst the difficulties, Adam and Eve's desire to start a family came true with the birth of their first children. Their first son, Cain, was born as a symbol of hope for the couple. Adam and Eve were happy with the new member of the family and saw in Cain a chance to start over. Cain grew up and became a farmer, dedicating himself to cultivating the land, which, despite being cursed, needed to be worked to provide food. A few years later, Eve gave birth to Abel. Abel became a shepherd, tending flocks of sheep. Cain and Abel followed different paths, representing the two main forms of sustenance at that time: agriculture and animal husbandry. Both offered sacrifices to God. Cain brought fruits of the land, while Abel offered the best sheep from his flock. God accepted Abel's sacrifice, but was not pleased with Cain's. This caused jealousy and anger in Cain. In an act of deep envy and despair, Cain killed Abel. This was the first recorded murder in human history and brought immense pain to Adam and Eve. The loss of Abel and Cain's act marked the family's life with tragedy and profound lessons about envy and the consequences of sin. Despite these difficulties, Adam and Eve continued to live and see the multiplication of humanity, carrying the hope of new generations and facing the realities of a world marked by sin. Thank you for watching this far. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue receiving our content on Bible stories. See you in the next video.